Last night I had no intention of watching any television because I'm just bored by it all. It's the same stuff over and over again, the same people over and over again. But then I heard that Ann Coulter was going to be on the Laura Ingraham show. So I said, oh, well, that I will watch. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Ann Coulter's on with me right now. Ann, 52 minutes I had to wait for you to be on that show last night. And then you were like gone before I, could appreciate your commentary. What was that all about?
Yes, it was a little disappointing, especially because I really wanted to talk to Laura, a lawyer, one of the few lawyers hosting a TV show,
right,
about this nonsense of Republicans, and I might add all of these allegedly hardline, lobbying groups in Washington on immigration for just DACA. Okay, we'll give you amnesty, but just for DACA,
right.
and we want these, three things in return. No, that was not Trump's campaign, and there's a reason he won an overwhelming victory in the Electoral College despite all odds and being a very unusual candidate. It's one thing and you understand it, but Laura would understand immediately where a line is written in the law is generally not, and sometimes particularly not where the law will be drawn in practice.
Right.
This is something lawyers learn about over and over again with the Coase theorem out of Chicago, but particularly in this case, we've tried drawing this line before, and we know what happens when it gets to the government and it gets to the courts. There is no way you can have any amnesty for the most narrow group of people, which is why you know you're being lied to whenever you hear the phrase children brought here through no fault of their own. That is a lie. It will be an amnesty. It will be a complete amnesty for everyone because that is how it will be interpreted by the government. That is absolutely how it will be interpreted by any Democratic administrations, and that's how it will be interpreted by the courts. This is what happened with the 1986 amnesty. There was one part of it written, of course, by Chuck Schumer. He has a history of fooling Republicans.
Right.
It would be a very, very narrow amnesty just to reward hardworking illegal immigrants who were preventing Americans from starvation, stopping crops from rotting on the fields. If they could prove they had worked at least 3 months on a farm in the previous year, they would be eligible for amnesty. Immediately, it just became an open-ended amnesty with everyone applying, getting it, people who weren't even in the country when they were supposed to be doing farm work, alleged, hardworking farm worker immigrants who thought cotton was purple and talked about pulling cherries from the ground. Nearly 1 million applications that were determined by the INS to be fraudulent were approved.
Nonetheless.
We've seen this happening with Trump's executive order, at which he has full constitutional and statutory authority to say we are not taking immigrants. In fact, he can say we're not taking immigrants who are redheads or left-handers. He could say we're not taking immigrants who don't come up to here on the height chart for any reason. No, he just says these countries. Absolutely 100% constitutional, specifically his statutory authority. And what happens? A Hawaii judge
right.
and the Ninth Circuit says, oh, no. Now we have a Ninth Circuit judge saying he can't suspend an unconstitutional executive order announced by Obama.
Mm-hmm.
So no DACA amnesty.
Right.
I put out a contest a few months ago. Never really got a winner on this for a different name for dreamers. I started with ingrates, but we have our winner now, Howie Carr, a fellow radio broadcaster.
Sure,
You
I know
call
Howie.
them the nightmares.
The nightmares. Well, listen, in many instances, that's exactly right. And you are so on the money when it comes to the ever-expanding, no matter what you say in the beginning, government will turn it into a general rule. Or, if not, the ACLU will sue and say you can't afford this to this group and not to this group. That's discrimination. And then it's game over.
Yes, absolutely include criminals, even without a dreamer or a nightmare amnesty on the books. In a single year, 2013, Obama released from custody hundreds of criminal aliens, murderers, rapists. And famously, an incident described in my book, Adios America, in the I think it was the 6 months, a run up to the 1996 election, the Clinton administration, coming from the White House, they ordered the INS. We want pedal to the metal. We want 1 million illegals legalized in time to vote for me. Mm-hmm. They had the INS. What was her name? Doris Meisner working. INS was working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, just processing applications. I went to work for the Senate Judiciary Committee, where I was after that. We looked through these applications and, again, found hundreds of murderers and rapists who were made citizens in order to get 1 million new Democratic voters for Bill Clinton. That's without an amnesty on the books.
Right.
No, the reason we voted for Trump was for deportations and a wall, not for, here, just this little amnesty for, children brought here through no fault of their own. Anyone who says that is a liar and is trying to grant a full and complete unconditional amnesty. None of the requirements attached to these laws, the ones about, I also go through in Adios America, English language requirement. Oh, no, that was thrown out by the INS. Have to pay a fee. No, that was thrown out by the INS. Have to pay back taxes. That was thrown out by the IRS. There are no requirements that will be met. We've done this over and over again.
Exactly.
It is 100% amnesty. There can be no DACA amnesty. And this idea that, the Republicans' first offer is, okay, we will give you amnesty. Now, here are our little requirements.
In a month.
Our position is wall, no amnesty ever. And, maybe we won't rush on deporting some of the deserving illegals.
Right. No, and what's amazing to me is that, last night they surrounded Chuck Schumer's house chanting, if Chuck won't let us dream, we won't let him sleep. They shut down the front of Disneyland in Southern California 3 days ago. And these are the people that are being represented as so valuable to this country. I like ingrate. I'm going with ingrate. I've never seen a group that got so much and hated us so much.
No, I know the entitlement mentality. I just can't imagine sneaking into another country, violating their laws, and then demanding that they amnesty me. Yesterday, what is taking you so long? No, I think it is not an accident. I keep seeing people like David Axelrod and Donna Brazile and, Democrats gloating, whoa, Republicans better watch out when we put those desirable, those innocent, those adorable dreamers on TV. Whoa, is the public sentiment going to change? Well, okay, we've been talking about this for a decade now. No. How come I never see any dreamers on MSNBC? I think there's a reason for that. They can't find a good one.
Right. Well, we keep seeing them, but they're like protesting at Nancy Pelosi gatherings. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. But I have to ask you, because you are an attorney, and I have to cover as much ground with you as I can when we speak. What do you make of all this stuff with the FBI? And as an attorney, would you let Donald Trump talk to this special prosecutor? Because I'm not an attorney and I don't play one on TV. But there's no way in hell I would sit him in an open investigation and allow him to answer questions. They just want to trip him up.
Yes, both very good questions. As for Trump going in and answering questions, the issue is not that Trump has done anything wrong. I mean, this is true if you are the most tertiary third-party witness. When I heard the Linda Tripp tapes before Ken Starr did, for those of you who remember the impeachment business, I had been doing quietly legal work for Paula Jones and her attorneys, along with some of my friends. I told them, don't tell me anything I'm not supposed to know because I'm going on TV, but I can take an interrogatory. I can write briefs. Mm-hmm. And it turned out Linda Tripp's lawyer, a friend of mine, Jim Moody, he had to listen to the tapes before he turns them over to the prosecutor, to Ken Starr. And he had a 1950s tape player, and he keeps hitting buttons and another one of the elves, as we called ourselves, George Conway, called me up and said, Ann, I'm afraid Moody is about to destroy the crucial evidence in this case. We know you're a deadhead. Can we come over and use your taping machine? Mm-hmm. So they came over at like 3 in the morning. We're hunched by my speakers listening to the tapes. As a consequence of that, simply allowing them to use my tape player, though I was listening, Ken Starr's investigators wanted to talk to me. Mm-hmm. Oh, you bet I hired an attorney. Mm-hmm. And it cost me a lot of money. Why? Because if I say they came over at 3 a.m. and they determined, no, they came over at 2 a.m. or something like that, that could be a lying to investigators crime. You need your own attorney there. That's when you don't have investigators who are out specifically trying to screw you. Right. So, yeah, I mean, I'd try to do it as a written interrogatory. I'd want to know what the questions, why right. he needs to be interviewed. And I would have a battery of attorneys with me to make sure there are other witnesses there and there isn't some misinterpretation that's being called lying to investigators.
Yeah. And by the way, the book that Ann wrote back in the late 90s, High Crimes and Misdemeanors, is where I had my political awakening because I had no idea just how well, Bill Clinton, I knew he was a bad guy, but I had no idea the level to which he had sunk, and the book opened my eyes, and certainly. And
what Democrats can get away with. I remember thinking during that time, there is absolutely no way, if a Republican president were doing this, that my friends, 90% of Republican senators wouldn't have been saying, you got to go or we're going to impeach you. You cannot. And that, if I have time, I'd just like to say on the destroyed FBI text.
Yes.
I mean, that was the underlying, one of the shocking things about the Bill Clinton case. One of the things I noticed at the time was the most liberal lawyer, and I had and was moving back to New York, lived in New York, was moving back to New York. I know a lot of liberal lawyers. Mm-hmm. Every lawyer was shocked and really disgusted by what Bill Clinton had done, because what lawyers do for a living is meaningless. You can have no system of laws if people will destroy evidence, as Bill Clinton had done, if they will lie under oath, if they will suborn witnesses perjury. He was being sued for having violated the civil rights law. A governor of a state cannot, it's a form of discrimination to be sexually harassing, i.e. calling Paula Jones up to a hotel room, dropping your pants and saying kiss it. That is a violation of federal law. There's no question that it happened, but he was preventing her from getting evidence by destroying evidence, giving it to Betty Curry, his secretary, right. Suborning, getting jobs for Monica so that she would lie to investigators, lying himself over and over and over again. That is what is pretty shocking about the missing FBI text. I don't know what you think about in your normal life, but when you work at a law firm, one thing you know absolutely is if this is going to be evidence, no destroying it. The
right.
entire law firm goes to prison if you do that.
Exactly. But, nothing will come of this. That's what's so frightening to me, is that it's being dismissed and poo-pooed on all the major networks. It's like it's not even a story. They want to know what Jeff Sessions said in his testimony before Robert Mueller. That's all they're talking about.
It's true, though. I will say I do want to see the texts. I mean, I hate talking about anything. I do want to hear more. I want to see them. And I don't know why, and maybe I don't have this right, but I thought a president can declassify whatever he wants. I really wish President Trump would declassify these texts so we can actually see what we're talking about rather than arguing about leaks about what the texts say, because they sound pretty damaging. And the missing texts, I mean, we need to know the dates on that. When did they go missing and how did they go missing? Because that is a really serious crime, and it's the only thing that looks like it could be a serious crime so far
right.
On either side of the equation. I mean, everything they're describing as obstruction of justice for the president is the president carrying out the duties of president.
Right.
Of course, he's allowed to fire his own employees. Now, if that's done with intent to an obstruction investigation, but at the same time, we know that Comey himself had told Trump, you aren't under investigation.
Right.
So he's entitled to hire Comey if he thinks Comey is wasting resources on some idiotic wild goose chase. That is his job. Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to see an obstruction case there, again, not knowing all of the facts, but I know most of the facts in that case. Whereas the missing emails, that looks very, very bad. That's usually what we're talking about in an obstruction of justice case.
Yeah, 18 minutes of Rosemary Woods' deletion brought down Richard Nixon. So,
Right.
I think 5 months worth of FBI texts might be a little more serious. And thank you so much. And again, if anybody uses you to make me watch an entire show that bored me to death until you came on, I'm not talking to them anymore. Right? Because that was
true friend, Joyce Kaufman.
Yeah, that was torture, man. Anyway, thank you so much. Talk to you soon, Ann.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
I'm almost afraid to open up the line to Miss Ann Coulter, who is a good friend of the program and a great columnist and the author of In Trump We Trust, E Pluribus Awesome, because I'm wondering what she's going to say about, she wrote a bang-up column about Lindsey Graham and what an idiot he is. But Donald Trump has now offered amnesty for 1.8 million dreamers, so-called, and but he wants $25 billion for a border wall. So, Ann, does this make you angry, sad, conflicted, or what?
I just don't understand what is so hard about enforcing federal law. We have an immigration crisis the same way we have a bank robbery crisis. And my solution to both is the exact same thing. Enforce the law. These are laws that have been voted on by Democrats and Republicans going back 50, 60 years. Debated, compromised on, sent to the president, signed into law, and then collected in large federal books known as the Federal Register. Why is it so hard, number one, to enforce the law, number two, to keep campaign promises?
I don't think that it should be, Ann, but that from a practical standpoint, what's going to happen. Let's say that Donald Trump said, all right, tomorrow we're building the wall. I'm doing it on my own authority. I'm going to do, as Ann Coulter suggested, we're going to send the Seabees. We'll send the Corps of Engineers. We'll just assert the authority the way Obama used to assert the authority. Oh, and by the way, we're enforcing the law. No.
Everything you're describing is Donald Trump doing what I just recommended in my first answer to you. He would be enforcing the law. That is not what Obama was doing. He was going against the law. And in fact, when he issued his executive amnesty, everybody, including Obama himself, admitted it was unconstitutional. Congress had spent years trying to agree to an amnesty, but as usual, though their paymasters want it, the Chamber of Commerce and the Business Roundtable, the public does not want it, which is why it could not be passed through Congress. There's a reason we have three branches of government and the Congress. Some of them are elected for 6 years and some for 2 years. Over in the House, that's the People's House, and then you have the Senate. They're more like the House of Lords, and then you have the unitary executive branch and the judiciary. They're not elected at all. Each of them have different roles. And if Congress is unable to pass a law, that's how democracy works. Once the laws have been passed and written on the books, it is up to the executive to enforce them. It's also the executive, the president's constitutional responsibility to defend the nation. He is the sole person who is the commander-in-chief. I cannot understand why it is so hard to, one, enforce federal law, B, keep campaign promises.
Okay, so if he begins to enforce the law, you saw the hoo-ha about 8 days ago when they took a guy who'd been here illegally for 30 years. There was absolutely every reason in the world to remove him. And the mainstream media set up a big, giant, boo-hoo party for him because he was being shipped out of the country, even though he didn't have a leg to stand on. In fact, by my math, he apparently arrived the year after the 86 amnesty signed off by Congress and President Reagan. And so he was doing exactly what all of us think is going to happen. You give amnesty, you're going to get another crowd of people just crossing your border. So I agree with you. But if you were to say we're going to get rid of 1.6 million or 800,000 or 3.6 million illegal aliens who are here, you know that for each and every one of them, the media would set up a full-size firestorm, and they would use that as a mechanism to persuade Americans that Americans are acting like the Nazis. And you know that's
totally
what they're going to
disagree on your conclusion. If dreamers were attractive, we'd already be seeing them on TV. We've been having this debate for a decade. And by the way, there is no rounding up involved, as Trump said repeatedly, but most notably in that famous Arizona speech of his immigration priorities, with the criminals first and the ones who were somehow, to use an Obama phrase, criminal justice involved. You didn't get a pass for being an illegal. If you happened to come to the attention of law enforcement, they would deport you. They might not go looking for all the brain surgeons I keep hearing about, but MSNBC can't seem to find to put on TV. In point of fact, I mean, this is why I keep saying I deport the dreamers first. Their main job in this country, for 90% of them, is protesting, is angrily denouncing America and Americans. There's a reason that even MSNBC dare not have dreamers on their airwaves every night. They know the American public would react in exactly the opposite way you were describing. And as for the media going crazy, I mean, it's like background noise now. That's the beauty of Donald Trump. They go crazy whatever he does. He could distract them for a week with a tweet. He tells a joke. They're screaming treason. At this point, what else do they have in their quiver?
I just worry, Ann, that there are so many people who don't go out and do their own research. They don't read what FAIR and Numbers USA and the Pew Research actually say about the realities of illegal immigration. They don't get that information. They sit down and they watch NBC, ABC, CBS, and PBS.
But that's what I'm telling you. Those networks can't put dreamers on because they are so unattractive. And if the media thinks they can make a big deal out of this and start talking more about it, you notice how the country has changed, I would say, since Adios America came out, and certainly given quite a boost by the Trump campaign. The more people know about immigration, what the laws are, and how it's actually being practiced in the country, the more they come to my side of the argument. The reason that for the past 40 years, until Adios America came out, you didn't know any of this stuff was because the left and idiot Republicans who care more about their re-elections and their donors than they do about the country, their position is, don't let Americans think about immigration. Do not have it on the menu. My friend Mickey Kaus wrote a blog item that got him thrown off Daily Caller a few years ago because Tucker Carlson ran it, and Tucker works for Fox, and he said you can't write an article critical of Fox. And what Mickey had done was go through, in the middle of the debate, the unconstitutional amnesty that we were just talking about that Obama issued, that everyone agreed was unconstitutional, that Democrats and Republicans vowed that they would legislatively overturn if Obama did such a thing during that election in 2014. There's a 3-week debate on it in the Senate, and you have all these Democrats filibustering Republicans, and especially senators like Tom Cotton, who had won their election, saying, I vow to stop this, running on immigration. The debate went on for 3 weeks. Fox News never mentioned it. What Megyn Kelly, he used Megyn Kelly as the example, as the id of Fox News. Every night it was ISIS, 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 ISIS. The strategy is do not let Americans find out what's going on. This is one of the things that our side, we want to broadcast it from the rooftops. They want people to never, ever think about it. This is a debate they cannot win.
And I don't disagree with you about the law. I don't disagree with you about what's right. I just don't understand why the president doesn't want to do it, and an awful lot of people who call themselves conservatives don't want to do it. I'd love to see the law enforced to the hilt, but I also see the need to cut some kind of deal at some point to get this resolved, or it stays with us forever. Ann Coulter, the author of In Trump We Trust. We'll be back in just a moment. You're listening to Lars Larson.
Ann Coulter, the best-selling author in Trump We Trust. That's her latest book. If you haven't got it, it's a big bestseller, In Trump We Trust. You follow her on Twitter and, of course, Facebook, and now Instagram. And go to AnnCoulter.com. You can get her new column there. Ann Coulter, how you doing?
Fine, thanks. I miss being in your studio with you.
Yes, it's nice here, isn't it?
It's very nice. Most radio studios are so crappy.
Yeah, tell everybody. We're not one of these. Every radio station you go to now, there's like 50 desks and only 2 people left working there. Here, there's 1 million people.
Yes, and very sleek and modern.
Yes, and then now the president tonight is going to Davos, Switzerland to be with these swamp people, these globalists, these open borders people. What do you think?
You can imagine how much I love that, Mark Simone.
Well, maybe he'll go tell him off nicely.
I don't know. Based on recent experience, he'll be coming out to reduce the carried interest loophole even more.
Oh, please. He did a good job on the Democrats in the shutdown. He stood up to them.
He did. But though I do think the media narrative is completely wrong on this. I do give Trump credit on this. But if the shutdown had been on anything else, it would have been the usual pattern. You and I have been watching this for, I don't know, decades now. Whenever there's a shutdown, it doesn't matter if it's Republican Congress, Democrat president, Republican president, Democrat Congress. Whenever there is a government shutdown, Republicans get blamed. Democrats are, I suppose, they claim there's some logic to this that, well, but Republicans are against big government. Well, you know, for one thing, so are liberals. I noticed that whenever there's a government shutdown, you know, the only government workers we hear about, the military. It's as if that's all our streams down libertarian-like government is doing for us. So apparently those are the only ones they consider worth defending. But for the Democrats to shut down the government in order to demand amnesty, which has been thoroughly, stoutly rejected by the American people every time they've been allowed to vote for 20 years now. I mean, this goes back to Proposition 187 in California in 1996. That was a proposition that would deny illegal aliens government benefits. It was overwhelmingly supported by every demographic except Hispanics, and they voted for it by more than 30%. I think a majority of blacks, a majority of whites, a majority of Asians. Pete Wilson was losing his reelection bid as governor. He was way down in the polls. None of the predictions would have had him winning. He suddenly comes, by supporting Proposition 187, comes back to a crushing win. Last time Republicans could win in California, but then, of course, the courts got a hold of it. And a court decided that a proposition voted on by the people was unconstitutional. It was an utterly lawless ruling out of California, but Gray Davis got elected and didn't appeal it. That's why California is in the state it's now, running like a top. But there have been initiatives in state after state since then. The Bush, McCain, Lindsey Graham, Marco Rubio, all these traitors have conspired to sneak through amnesties, full amnesties, as Lindsey Graham's bipartisan deal is, in the dark of night at least twice. It cost Bush and the Republicans that 2006 midterm election when Democrats swept in. As I pointed out in Adios America, polls at the time showed it was Bush's push for amnesty that voters were furious about. The Iraq War in 2006 was more popular than Bush's push for amnesty. So it's been shut down. It's destroyed the careers of nearly a dozen Republicans, the ones I just mentioned. I'll throw in Jeb Bush. Neither a Democratic Congress nor a Republican Congress have been able to pass even this precious, allegedly narrow amnesty for dreamers, not when Obama had both houses of Congress and the presidency. I saw some liberal on TV saying, oh, no, it was just because he had more urgent concerns dealing with the economy. Well, again, for one thing, according to them, dumping millions and millions of low-wage workers on the country is fantastic for the economy.
Well, it is for the
lobbyists and the donors and the companies.
Right. But number two, I'm sorry, no, that's BS. He wasn't going to start with something that was as even more unpopular than Obamacare. And the Republicans got control of Congress. They couldn't pass it. That's why there have been initiatives in state after state, Montana, Washington State, states you wouldn't even expect it. Similar, Arizona, of course, places you wouldn't even expect. Always, whatever the anti-immigration position is, that side always wins overwhelmingly, and then the media turn around and say, oh, no, but we have these phony polls showing that Americans love amnesty. I mean, we elected Donald Trump. Lindsey Graham got 0.00% of the vote. Donald Trump got at least enough of the vote to be made president. Every time Americans go to the polls, whenever they're allowed to actually vote on immigration, however you phrase it, whatever the question is, they want less immigration. So for the Democrats to shut down the government until illegal aliens are given amnesty, that's why Republicans won the shutdown fight, and it lasted about 48 hours.
Hey, do you think also a lot of voters were watching Chuck Schumer pound the table, fight with passion, and then one time he cried, and they think to themselves, how come he doesn't get like that over me?
Absolutely.
Why did he fight like that for me?
Why aren't the Democrats fighting for Americans like that? Trump's beautiful campaign when he said, Americans have dreams too, and they're the ones I care about.
Well, you got to stop with this word dreamers. That's a bad word. It's like saying undocumented.
No, you know what Howie Carr's word for them is? I love it, and we must both adopt it now without explanation. The nightmares.
I like that. But they're not dreamers. The person's still in another country trying to get here legally but can't get the paperwork, can't get the approval. That's the dreamer who's dreaming of coming here.
Or the Americans who hoped their children would grow up and, have happy lives and not be murdered by a legal alien. They're dreamers, too.
Hey, all the bank robbers are dreamers. They're dreaming of the money.
Exactly.
All criminals are dreamers. That's why they're doing it.
No, I know. I put out a request on Twitter like 4 months ago for an alternate name for the Dreamers. But when I talked to Howie Carr yesterday, I realized we had the winner, the Nightmares.
All right. Well, now, hey, what about this FBI secret society and all this? They found one of these Peter Strzok texts where he said to the woman, she says, well, don't worry, Mueller. And he was on the Mueller investigation. He writes back, forget it. There's no there.
Yes, that's very interesting. This whole thing is interesting. And I don't know why Trump doesn't I don't know why he's waiting. My understanding was, and perhaps I'm wrong about this, but that the president could declassify whatever he wanted to declassify. But it sounds like we all need to see it. I hate talking about leaks, about things I haven't seen, but the texts we have seen between these FBI agents are pretty damning. And I mean, again, hate watching MSNBC. The big line is always, Republicans are shocked that FBI agents have political opinions. But no, that's not the point. It's that you don't want an investigator on what is supposed to be an impartial truth for justice to hate the object of the investigation.
And to write to his friend, don't worry, I got a scheme to get rid of him.
Right. I mean, you don't want somebody to be hungry to get somebody. Maybe if you're going after the mob or just like a general concept, terror, you want somebody who hates terrorism, but you don't want someone who hates this one particular guy you're investigating.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of MSNBC, did you see last night they were running promos all day? Rachel Maddow, 9 o'clock, exclusive interview with Chuck Schumer.
I hope it gets played far and wide. I don't think the Democrats listen to me, but if I were the Democrats, I would take Chuck aside and say, Chuck, we love you. You've been working in the trenches for such a long time, but we just can't put you on TV.
Yeah, they should say, we focus grouped it, and you look like a really sleazy, pay-for-play bureaucrat. Nobody trusts you.
No, but it's one of, we don't have too many just lucky breaks, as or Republicans don't. But one of the lucky breaks is Chuck Schumer loves being on TV. Oh, also Adam Schiff, the West Coast version of Chuck Schumer.
Yeah, I mean, could you think of two phonier looking guys than Adam Schiff and Chuck Schumer? If you
I hope no Democrats who work in Washington listen to this program. Do say we're safe, because I don't. Oh, never mind. Those guys want to be on TV. They can't stop them.
Yeah, but if you went into a car dealer and the salesman was Adam Schiff, you'd go right to another person. It's beady-eyed, shifty-eyed looking guy.
I do think the destruction of these texts, and again, I would like to know what is in the text and at what point they got destroyed. But this is really, this is potentially a very serious obstruction case. The left keeps talking about, and the media keeps talking about, Donald Trump simply doing his job. He's allowed to fire people and talk about having a political opinion. He's allowed to say something nice about Flynn, someone who works for him. The most ordinary behavior of a president is they're trying to, twist it into an obstruction case. Destroying documents.
Yeah, that's an excellent point.
Serious.
This may be the biggest obstruction case in a million years. Well, I hate to say we're out of time, but everybody go to AnnCoulter.com. You can get her column there. Order her book if you don't have it, In Trump We Trust. New column comes out tomorrow, right? Or tonight?
Tonight for the truly enthusiastic. And
follow Ann Coulter on Twitter and Facebook and all that. Ann Coulter, thanks for being with us.
Good to talk to you, Mark Simone. Bye-bye.
Take care.